can't help it, I just seem to see the world different. It ain't Republicans or labor rules, it's mental illness. The internet is only interested in left opinions. Cancel culture's got more power lately than the First Amendment. If you don't like it, leave. We will not defund police. We don't want no riots in our neighborhoods or in the streets. We respect freedom of speech. We protect what we believe. We don't want nobody dead, so please do not tread on me. In America, there's freedom ain't free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, can say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom is the reason you can disrespect our flag. If my stars and stripes offend you, then I'll help you pack your bags. America.
Good evening, America. How y'all doing? And welcome to the corner of Church and State where there is no separation. I am your friendly neighborhood bearded weirdo coming at you loud and proud as I always do. And with this magnificence upon my face. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I hope you're doing well on this here May 9th of 2023. Can you believe it? But before we go any further, I want to talk about the man to my left, my brother, my compadre, my best friend, the one, the only, Pastor Gary Podosek. And then, behind the curtain, our own typical, or not typical, he's far from typical, he's extraordinary. Our own extraordinary Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, he is Steve Cattell.
Hello there,
How you guys doing?
Fantastic. Doing fantastic.
And you, Pastor?
I'm good. It's yeah, you know.
Even though you're living your own Return of the Allergies, it's not Return of the Jedi, it's Return of the Allergies for you.
We have people who have recently moved from other states to this lovely state of New Jersey and found out why. Look, I don't want to talk like New Jersey is like the worst state in the world. It's not. It's not that bad. But
it's not California.
No, they want it to be California.
They're trying.
I mean, like I was there was a video and a coworker of mine showed me this video of this Mustang. This guy just straight up on like a freeway runs into this truck. And the guy like looks at the guy and he like turned kind of like he hit the truck. So it was kind of like he hit the truck and then, kind of turned his wheels because he's in a Mustang. Yeah. Right. Because the wheels kind of go out from behind. So he kind of hit the side of the truck and then kind of peeled out. So he backs up and he hits the truck again. Then he backs up some more. And then he hits this other car. And he backs up some more, and he hits another car, and he tries to back up all the way across the other lane, and he backs into like this mailbox, and almost hits this other car, and then he comes forward again and hits the same car again. And he just keeps hitting cars like it's Destruction Derby. And I'm just sitting there like, that's California. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, that stupidity only exists in one state, California. And the person was like, Wait, we got to see the license plate. As soon as you get to a point where the guy gets out of the car, he grabs like a pipe wrench because he thinks the dude's like drugged out of his mind, grabs this like pipe wrench out of his truck, looks over, car license plate.
Jersey.
Nope, California. California. I was like, look, California is the worst place in the world. It is absolutely horrible. I mean, there are cities in other states that are terrible, but California is just a complete
Jersey
dumpster
is a close second.
And, hold on. And I can say dumpster fire because there's literally dumpsters in California that are on fire. Yeah. Like that's not far from.
Well, you can also legitimately say that they're nothing but a heaping pile of crap because that's everywhere you go, there's a pile of crap.
But Jersey there's some nice things about Jersey. Like, I don't say the Jersey Shore because you'll think like North Jersey, that's crap.
No.
You'll get a heroin needle.
They were from New York.
No, but like you go down south to the Cape May area. You know the boards down Wildwood. They're really nice. There's great places to go in Jersey. There's some nice national parks in Jersey that are nice.
There's some nice camping areas. Watch out for the Pine Barrens and Pineys will get you.
Food. We have stuff in Jersey. I mean, look, one of the things I still can't believe, we are the state for the best pizza.
Yep, we were voted in the country best pizza.
And look, I've been telling people for a long time, like, dude, Jersey's pizza is better than New York. No, Chicago's got better pizza. No, Chicago has pizza soup. That's not pizza.
It's not pizza soup. No. They have what you can legitimately say is a pie. because
Yeah.
it's
Thick.
this
Yeah,
thick.
it's not, but it's like, but even inside, it's like it's
not soup.
it's
I've had it. I've made it.
it's
I've made it.
kind
It's
of
not
soup.
soup. No,
If you just said it's like pie, okay. Well, the inside of a pie filling, does it stay there? Or
actually,
does it
that's
ooze
not
out?
the inside of it, because the way they do it, they make the bread crust, then they put the cheese,
Which
all
I don't
the
like
toppings
the
and
doughy
stuff,
bread either.
and then
it's too doughy.
because it's an actual
I
bread
know,
crust.
I know,
It's
I
not
know,
a pizza crust.
It's
Then they put all the
Stuff inside.
the toppings
Yeah.
go on the bottom, and then the top is the sauce, and then they put it in the oven and bake it, and the sauce it thickens
hard,
up.
but
while
it
it's in
thickens.
there.
But it's just
Anyway.
again, yeah. So all that to say,
But I digress.
But
New
Jersey
Jersey
does
is
have
best
some.
pizza.
Jersey has a crud of allergies that you will suffer from if you've never been in the state before, and you'll be like, I never had allergies before. Welcome to.
Let
New
me tell you
Jersey.
this: if you don't have a yellow car, you do now.
Yeah, that
The
was
pollen.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really bad.
If your car is any other color than yellow,
People write
normally
smiley faces on
now
their
it's
cars.
yellow.
It's yellow. Yeah.
But that's not what this episode is about. If
No.
you see,
No.
the name of this episode is called "Return of the Blinded."
Yes.
And the reason for that is that we are bringing back my sister,
Hi, honey.
one of my best friends. I've known her since we were 16. Wrote a book. We had her on before talking about her book, and now it's been out for a while. People have been able to buy it. So now
Pre-launch, yep.
I can,
It's pre-launch.
Yeah, it was pre-launched. It's been launched. Hard copies are still pending. Not because she hasn't tried. There have been technical difficulties that
You'll learn.
give me a headache.
You
Okay,
learn.
just the thought of
Hey,
them.
it's like your problems with PC computers, you know.
But don't get started with me and computers. No, me and computers have there's a love-loathing relationship
there's
there.
no love.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. If I could get away with beating my computer to make it work,
Yeah, right.
I would do it. But if I beat it, then I'm out $1,500.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't do that. But we're bringing her back on to talk more about the book, get a little bit more
Now
detail.
that it's out. Yeah.
Now that it's been out, we can sort of touch the realm of spoilers.
No, careful.
Sorta. Okay,
Somebody
but
was right as far as
the big reason that I, other than the fact that she's my sister and I love her and I love this book, I absolutely love this book. Other than that being the reason for bringing her back on, I also know that it is important. It is important that we as Christians, that we as conservatives, that we as people with a brain really, and common sense, that if somebody that we know or even somebody within our community has created a product, no matter what it is, we need to do our best to push it, because obviously the woke agenda won't. They don't want this book to succeed.
Right.
I want it to succeed. I want it to far go beyond anything that has been put out there before. And the topic or the subject matter, I've read other books on this fictional subject matter, and as good as those books were, I personally believe, as somebody who knows these books, this book, The Blinded, is far better. So we want to get her on. We want to advertise this. So if you are somebody who has read the book, if you're watching this and you've read the book, or you know Jess, please share this video. We want this to get to a point. Yes, it's going to be a slow build. Yes, it's going to be a grassroots movement to get this built up. But we don't want it to plateau now. We want it to break any glass ceiling that may be in the way and break all
You
barriers.
think glass ceilings are easy to break?
You would think. Depends on the type of glass. But we want to break all ceilings, all barriers on this. And though it's not pretty much Jess and with my buddy Gary here, her husband, they have done all this themselves. They footed their own money. They footed their own time. I mean, they've put a lot of stuff into this, and doing it outside of a publication company is a lot harder. But at the same time, because of that, they don't have to deal with a publication company saying, "Now we don't want to publish your book. We don't want to. We want you to change things before we publish it.
Right.
Nothing has to be changed." So we need to take, and it's something that we're going to do on this show more and more as we have stuff. I believe that there are Christian bands that we should be promoting, Christian movies that are out there that we should be every once in a while bring up. so that people know, because a lot of these things don't get big, advertising, and we have to be the ones that advertise it. So again, like I said, if you know Jess, if you've read the books, post this, show this out there so that more people get to see this, because that's how more and more people are going to get to know. So
without say, like we don't have a stinger, so let's bring her
without further ado, let's bring in my sis.
Hi guys.
Hey, sis.
Can you hear me?
What are you doing? Yeah, we can hear you fine.
I hear a little feedback.
There's going to be a smidgen because you're not wearing a headset.
There we go. No, I think I figured it out. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be a little smidgen, but that's fine. That's fine.
Hi, honey.
Hello. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Hey, it's my pleasure. As somebody who is a big fan of this book and the world you have created, or in this case, the world you may be prophesying.
Is there a way that I can see you guys too?
Yeah, I can make it a little.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, it's a little.
I would go the.
Let's try this one.
There you go.
Yay.
That one's better. There we go. We're not, as you can tell, we're not used to having guests on. So
bringing you on again, and I obviously have a lot of insider baseball, on more than even what my brother here has. But during the development process of the book, it was one phase. But now that the book is finished and it's here, and hey, look, it's a real book.
Here,
okay.
Hold it.
I did it upside down for a reason.
Side up, yeah.
But I did do it for a reason. But when you go through this story and you're learning about, obviously, we can spoil some things, like main character's name. Her name is McKenna. And you're following her on this journey. Some of the things like you kind of get right from the door with like this kind of book is you're going, woman power. Okay. It's going to be one of those books, or it's going to be one of these books about, this, adventure, where you're going to find this descent this girl goes through, and, her redemption story or something like that. And, that's not what you wrote.
No, it is not.
McKenna is not even, and I don't want to not spoil, but McKenna is not, it's not about McKenna. It's McKenna's the vessel that you're viewing everything through. She's kind of like a blank slate. You can kind of even throw yourself into McKenna and be McKenna through your story, and you experience your world. You experience the interactions. You experience the dilemmas. You experience all these things. And although, yes, McKenna does have a voice, and McKenna does have her own opinions to the thing, and
very whiny voice in the beginning.
In the very beginning, you find out obviously that she's would you say misguided?
Well, I would say that she's blinded.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I didn't want to throw the title out and name drop, but okay.
But I did the thing with the thing.
Yeah, but misguided also a good term. Misinformed.
I would say blinded because there is a heavy theme of spiritual blindedness in this book.
Yeah, that's true.
And really, we don't really think about how we go about our daily lives, and we just accept things, and we have these blinders on, and we get tunnel vision, and we just accept our reality for what it is. And for those of us who are Christians, there's a whole other world, that spiritual world that we profess that we believe in, that we profess that we believe that impacts our existence. But for the most part, we live our lives as though it does not even impact, or it's not even there. And when we do talk about it, it's treated as if it's like some sort of heebie-jeebie mambo-jumbo crazy talk, and we don't want to go there.
I feel like she just cast a spell. Heebie-jeebie mambo-jumbo.
Mambo-jumbo stuff that, like, you get very uneasy about. And Blinded is placed 85 years to our future. And it does talk about a lot of, it kind of references a lot of things that we're going through now as if past. So it's like it's a plausible future that if we just stay blinded, if we don't actually address things, if we don't talk about things, if we just continue to keep our head down and trudge along, this could possibly be a possible outcome that we could see. And I wrote it in that way, not because of the fact that I was trying to champion a certain cause or anything, but really to make it relatable, really to make this story be believable, and to really allow us to be able to have these two worlds merge in a way that it felt more natural. And the two worlds that I'm talking about is this spiritual world that as Christians that we say that we believe in, and our natural world that we live in. And McKenna goes through this journey where in 85 years, the way that Christianity and the way many of the religions are actually practiced and professed are very different than what we have now. And so there's a lot
very
of
much so, and it's very much all the religions, not just Christianity, but I mean, there's in the book when you read it, guys, you'll see there's very much a black mark upon true Christians in the book.
And that's kind of what I was going to say.
They're all the religions are controlled by the government,
right? And what I want to do real quick,
it's like China and America.
You're playing a lot of the stuff I was going to say anyway, so it's pretty cool. But one of the things I wanted to mention about it before we get to like kind of our opening salvo with you is that and you're kind of leading it in, is the world that you created, the spiritual world you created in this book is really an expose on worldly Christian. And I think that that's kind of like one of the first monikers of this story that you really start to see that this, I don't want to say it's it's not a book that you're going, you're going to learn spiritual lessons out of, because it's Christian fiction. But you will learn.
They are.
Hold on. I'm saying initially, you're not picking it up going, I'm going to learn a spiritual lesson here. But when you start reading the context of what's here, you start to see that the worldly Christendom is exposed right out from the door. And you start to see this really huge, dramatic shift. And this is what I think is awesome, from that worldly Christian standard to really what we would all sit here and believe and say is the expectation of the true spiritual Christian. And I think that that's where, and of course, without spoiling things, all in this book, by the way, not only do you get the expose of that worldly Christendom, but you also get the quick and immediate shift into spiritual realities that would like blow everybody here out of the water. Like, I mean, things move fast. Mm-hmm. And so I think, which is going to lead kind of to one of the first questions I wanted to bring up is, because I know you have a handful of questions. I didn't give you any of my questions. I'm going to get mine.
It's fine. Go for it. And then you
guys can go off on the deep end after this, because I
have,
like I said, I have insider baseball, so I have a lot of answers to the questions already. But for our viewers and for people who are listening, when you were writing the, and I'm again trying to keep this spoiler free as best as I can.
Look, we can have a little bit of spoilers, I know. But don't go full ampage.
When you were going into the, well, I can say this. When you were using Revelations as a bigger part of the developmental process of the story.
As a template. The eschatology.
What would you say is probably one of the biggest components of Revelations that you believe impacted the direction of Blinded?
I would have to say the part in Revelations where it's talking about Babylon. And it addresses Babylon as a spiritual entity and Babylon as a city in Revelations. And it talks about I don't know if I can say the word, the H word, but it's in the Bible.
Actually, that would be a W. Word. It's a WH word. The whore. No, you can say that word.
You can say
whore. So, that in the Bible it talks about the whore of Babylon and the woman, and I really thought about that scripture, and I really kicked it around in my mind, because I found it very interesting about how in Revelations it talks about how all these kings and these kingdoms, they bow down to Babylon. They give their riches, their fame, their fortunes, their prestige, their kingdoms all to her command. And I really sat there and puzzled with what is it in our reality, in our world, that we would give hand over foot for? What is it that that people give like tons of money, like they go into debt for? They give like they use their prestige to get advancement over somebody else in. And what I came up with was education.
In this day and age, yeah, it pretty much is education. I can agree with that one.
Education.
Yeah.
Education to flip it around as power, so that later they can use it as power over people. I'm more educated than you. You don't trust the science.
Well, not only that,
or
but
even when you're going for college, you use your family name, or you're quick to sign your name on the dotted line for these student loans, and you'll go into debt for it.
Outrageous.
You're paying for them. People come from foreign lands to go and be educated in other things. We have so many foreign exchange students that come to America for collegiate studies and even exchange student programs to experience the American education system. But you also have other programs across the world where you have pianists and other very talented musicians that they will go to conservatories and they will learn underneath these masters of their skills to be able to enhance their ability to play. And they don't care if they're in London and you have to go from Japan to London to learn, or France, or vice versa, going from France to Japan to be able to sit under that master. People move mountains for education. So that was something that I played around with, and it became kind of this architect background of Blinded, that really the influence that you were going to start seeing the shape and change of was the education, and that's where that's where people were getting blinded. They weren't even realizing it is just the education.
Right. And we can see this today. Like we see how, they want to teach kids, the stuff that they're trying to, shove down
all sorts of garbage
into these kids nowadays. And, and not to go into that direction, but the fact that the government is the one mandating what's being taught is really part one of the problem. And obviously, I can say this freely is that's a big part of Blinded is the government controlled education system.
Well, it's government controlled everything.
Right.
System.
Well, yeah, but the education is really a key point. And I think that's really good that you brought that up. That the education is so important in your story, because not only is it the indoctrination, but it's the way, it's the vessel that they actually,
it's your placement in life.
Well, not just your placement, but it brings up, and this is really, and I'll finish my thought here, it's like the idea of one-upsmanship.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it kind of with the fact that people will travel, as far as land can see to just find somebody that they can teach them the best, to be the best, And that's really the ultimate thing, is everybody's always led to believe they have to be the best, but they forget. What about the guys who take out your trash? What about the guys who fix your light bulbs when they're broken? What about the guys who fix your house when it's broken? What about the guys that, these jobs, these people don't want to take these jobs because they believe they have to
answer the mice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
that so, home.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't realize there's so many other parts to the system, and when you're given a full diet of you can't be, that's unacceptable, and the only thing you can be is better than that person, and if you're not better than that person, then you weren't good enough. And the education system pretty much leads you in a place where that is all that exists, that you exist for education and only that. And you have, countries like China is the first one that comes to my mind. Where they beat the kids so senselessly into this education and dominance in education that kids commit suicide because they got an A-.
Yes.
Yep.
Like that's serious. That's not a joke. And the other problem,
the other thing is that going on with the education, especially in this book, but it's also something we're seeing nowadays in this country, is that only in your book it's gone way beyond what it is now, which is
Right.
in education, you're not told how to think, you're told what to think.
Right.
And that is pervasive in your book, because you're I don't want to spoil, but there are interactions with, because mind you, the McKenna's what, 17 in the book, 16, 17. She's 18. So
She's 18.
Right. She's getting ready for graduation out of the current source of education, being made an adult, having to choose things that pertain to her life. And so, but they are literally like telling you how to think. And if you don't think exactly this way, well, then you're going to end up over here, and we're either going to brainwash you or we're going to cast you out of society all entirely and treat you as nothing more than a plebe and a slave.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that was it for my question.
Blinded.
That was it for me. That was my question. So I don't have any other questions.
Mine are deeper. So I've read the whole thing.
So Steve has not read all of the book yet. He is just gracing chapter 3 at the present. So
yes. Yeah, I've gotten up to chapter 3 and a couple of pages into chapter 3. So you wanted my honest opinion.
So far, yes.
Somebody who doesn't read a lot.
Somebody who doesn't read a lot, and somebody who, when they do read, has to be enthralled 100% in order to be interested in the book. Because just because you're my friend and my sister does not mean that I'm not going to tell you my hard, honest opinion.
I know, I'm a little scared right now.
But that's okay. I'll tell you, it took me forever to get through chapter 1. My opinion of chapter 1 is take it, crumble it, and throw it away. Not that it's not needed. It is needed. It's very, very much needed to.
It's a lot of information. It's a
lot of stuff in there that I'm like, not interested. Next, not interested. Next, and then we get to chapter 2, and I'm like, oh, stuff's happening. Oh, this is going on. Oh, this is going on. And I'm like, oh, now I want to actually read the book. Like. So yes, it was a very
just wait.
Very,
you ain't
very
even
slow,
at the.
I know. I'm up,
ladies and gentlemen. At chapter 5, the book lights on fire.
So you can stop anytime you want after chapter 5.
I tell everybody, I'm like, chapter 5 is when the book literally catches on fire and you can't put it down. So
coming from that, it basically captured my eye from chapter 2 on. Mm-hmm. Like I was now looking forward to going back home, if I was reading at work, going home and reading it some more so I can find out what is going to happen next. But stuff happens, and I was kind of blown away. I'm like, Jess wrote this? You sure? You must have did some really deep searching, because there's some stuff.
You ain't even got there yet.
How do you know?
Right, so I will tell you straight up. Her browser history is banned from any federal agents whatsoever. Like there's no searching her search history. I've cleaned it. I've washed the hard drives in bleach like Hillary Clinton.
And mind you, that's just for book 1. That's just for book 1.
I'm going to tell you. There's a specific chair in this book. Okay, say that. Okay, there's a specific chair in this book.
There is.
Doesn't come until way later.
Doesn't come until way later. And the things that she had to research to get the information about the specific chair, including the name of that she gave the chair.
Well, we got rid of it, and I originally came up with a very cool combination of 2 Greek terms, and then I realized I'm eventually going to have to read it and pronounce it, so I named it something completely simple
so that you can pronounce it. But the name,
smart.
But the things that she had to look up to describe what this chair does, one of those things was the injection into the back, right? The spinal tap, basically.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Like you're looking up
how deep can you insert needles into the back without paralyzing and
that's in her browser history, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like, you need to delete that. People are going to think you're trying to literally control people from the waist down and paralyze them.
Here's my thing.
Different movements and feelings through vibration through needles being injected into the spine. Yeah, stuff like that.
It seems very dark, and I will tell you, when you get to the chair, it is very dark.
Okay.
It's very dark, but I wouldn't even consider that the most dark.
No, that's not. That's not at all.
No.
I'll also tell you something that really helped me get through chapter 1.
Okay.
That's why I brought this. I want you to go ahead with one hand, grab that book. Go ahead and grab this for me. And then go ahead and lift one up on the screen and lift the other up on the screen. Just so you can.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then go ahead and put up the book right next to it.
It's a big book.
Just to
yeah. So he's doing this comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got that versus.
So reading.
I knew. Yeah. It's a.
You don't have the smell of the pages.
Yeah, the smell of the pages. But I will tell you, this is
It's a hefty book.
This is a massive book. And
I know the hardcover is going to be heavier.
I tell like ladies who grab my book to just throw this in your purse. This is like a self-defense weapon.
Yep. If you get hit in the face with it, you'll be blinded.
Look, it's thick enough.
Like, I don't know you. That's my purse, and like whack them with it.
I bet you it's thick enough to stop a bullet. It's almost thick enough to stop a bullet. Armor plating.
Maybe
Yeah,
so.
get a couple of them.
There are a lot of other uses for such a big book. So I definitely broke some rules. As an indie author,
And first time
author, I kind of gave myself some grace. And writing this book, typically in this genre, the young adult dystopian fantasy, you're looking at about 190K, and that's 190,000 words to about 200,000 words. This is like 257 plus.
See, I like because this is not.
I broke the rules because I felt like everything that was, you needed these things to make sense. And although I know, Steve, you're saying chapter 1 wasn't your favorite, I think someone who's very close to you, who has read farther than you, she's coming to understand that everything is important and everything is building off each other.
Yeah. And I will say, as somebody who read, I laugh when they say, for this genre of writing, you only want to be within these words. This word count. I read Lord of the Rings in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I read The Hobbit. I read Roots. Okay, those books, according to what you're saying, the genre today allows.
Mm-hmm.
Would be considered adult reading, not teen. But I was reading it as a young teen.
Yeah. So
this is where education is screwing up your kids, people.
They're busy reading.
They need a graphic novel.
Trans United today.
So my biggest thing was, as I explained to her previously, was shorter chapters. You can have that chapter and be all important. Make it 3 chapters. Make it 4 chapters. For me, it makes it easier as somebody who has a hard time reading. So that way I have a short stopping point, and I can go, all right, cool, I got to that.
Actually,
maybe I can read another chapter.
Most of her chapters are pre-built with that. There's always a spot. There's quite usually a spot in every chapter that you can go, oh, I can stop here. You may not want to stop there, but you can stop there.
Yeah, and I was just wishing that was a physical chapter, because visually, that makes it easier for me to read when I have a visual stopping point as a chapter.
Look, and I'm going to say this because of you. This book went from 18?
It went
18 chapters.
It went
to 25.
Yes, I actually considered
she did
that,
split up
Steve,
chapters.
She split up quite a few chapters and made them smaller, just for you.
To make it a little bit better. But also I had this idea in my head that I wanted it to feel like time was speeding up, and that the pace of the book was speeding up. So I wanted
smaller chapters to give the
make it feel like it was going
towards
faster.
the end. They get smaller.
Yeah, and that's what I like about already was I started to get through chapter 2. I got to chapter 3 almost right away, and I was like, why do I feel like it took so long to get through chapter 1? And I'm already at
7 is the longest. 7 is the longest chapter.
Chapter 1 is the second longest, and I think after that, every chapter is pretty much the same.
They go great. They go real
I
quick.
think 24 and 25 are like the shortest
Actually,
chapters.
7 is long, but it's not the longest chapter.
Okay.
That was the longest one to read, for me to read anyway, and I was
a
burned.
lot going on in chapter 7. That is true.
There's a lot of things. A lot of things you go, oh, I know what's going on to read chapter 7. Even after chapter 5, which I will agree with Gary here that chapter 5 does some mind blowing, but 7 is the one where because the mind gets blown in 5, so you start assuming things, and then all this stuff happens in 7. You're going, well, crumble that up and throw that away. I have no idea what's going on.
In chapter 5, I address something that I kind of look at as kind of a benchmark in when you're talking about end times and Christian beliefs. I give you something that is a huge benchmark, which is the rapture. But the way that I give it to you,
that for some people reading it didn't think it was.
correct.
I've heard. They're like, no.
And
you mean you didn't give it to him with like folded clothes on top of the airplane, yet the plane's still flying somehow?
Stop quoting Left Behind.
Look, I'm just saying. I still thought that was my favorite part of Left Behind when the rapture happened, and people's call like they
didn't know where that came from.
Hold on. It's not. Listen. I'm just pointing out they were on the plane. And then people were like gone, but their clothes were just sitting there folded on the seats. And I'm like, thank God the pilot was a sinner. See, at that point, you're like, good. Thank God the pilot, because that scene would have been totally different.
All right.
If he was like a minister on the side, and he was just doing this as like his free thing, you just watch the planes on fire.
Well, that's the thing. I read the Left Behind series, and they do actually talk about how planes fell out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole reason for the folded clothes thing is because in the Gospels, when they talk about Jesus being risen, his grave garments were folded after his body had left the grave.
Yeah, I don't handle it this way.
No.
I do not handle this way.
No,
good.
I give it to you. It's like it's very brutal. Like I go with the whole part of where
get in the octagon.
I really took the scripture about how he comes as he's going to come as a thief in the night, and like it's just like really quick, like you don't like boom, just you don't even realize it. So I kind of the way I gave it to you, and the way and the realization of the aftermath of it happening, like you have those two things.
Yeah.
And as I'm talking to people who have read this part, people were asking me, so what happened? Was this like a crusade that came through? Like was like it didn't quite click right away that I had given them the rapture.
You could tell fantasy
of the rapture.
I honestly think that that's probably the coolest part about this is the fact that you wrote it in a way that even the person who's reading it takes a moment to register. Like,
well, that is
happened here.
That is where my question is coming in.
Okay.
And it's something that.
Hold on, Steve.
I'm sorry. You got more? Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So
it was a perfect lead into the question that I got.
But so my couple of questions may be answered even by Nolan, for some of them. First, am I ever going to like McKenna?
Yes.
Because
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because right now,
she's whiny.
Yeah, right now she's Luke Skywalker.
Yes. She's whiny. She's very whiny.
No. I would say she's more. I would say she's
like whiny protagonist. I know people don't like that, but the thing is that when you're dealing with a loss in your life, that it's so paramount. Like it literally just the extraction of them from your lives, and for McKenna, it was her sister. Mm-hmm. It just completely knocked her. And
sister who was a legit born again on fire believer secretly.
Yes, it
missionary.
It made her really question things. It made her not want to move on. She was really caught in this real deep depression. And although she's whiny, I
Oh,
believe
God,
that
is
she's
she
relatable
whiny?
because she's dealing with this loss. And when we meet McKenna, it's been 2 years and she's still grieving. She's still dealing with this.
Well, it doesn't help about who's been speaking into her life, and I realize I can't say too much, but when it comes to who's actually been speaking into her life over the last 2 years, I wonder why she's just a little whacked out.
True.
Um,
That does kind of, and that does, you kind of do see that when you surround yourself with people who have not the purest intentions, who do not really care about your heart and want you to really rise above or get over that they just want you to be weak and be able to be complicit to whatever their agenda is. You can really see the damage that happens. And in McKenna's case, you're dealing with a character that she's already really broken. And I
being
thought
put
that
back
was
together by the wrong people.
yes, and Humpty Dumpty broke and they were putting them together again, but they were putting them together all wrong. And it, like, you've got hands where feet should be, and you've got eyes like in places that shouldn't be. So I wanted to give you a character that she's already at this very low spot, and I took a chance with making her whiny, because when you're dealing with that kind of depression, you can be a bit whiny. When you're dealing with feeling like you're just in this pit, you can feel that way, and you don't see you don't see reality in the way that it really is around you. You see it through a very crafted lens that you've made for yourself, that it's because you can't handle anything.
right.
And I think, if anyone has dealt with that kind of loss in their life, they'll be able to actually understand and connect with McKenna in that way, even though may not like it.
Right.
And they might be just like want to reach through the page and slap her around a little bit, like, get over this, McKenna.
Get on with it. Get on with it. Get on with it. Get on with it.
And that's okay. I wanted you to have an emotional reaction to her, and I
Yeah,
wanted
for
you
the
to
beginning,
have.
you do spend a
Yeah.
lot of time wanting to smack her upside the head.
And again, I go back to kind of one of the things I said earlier, and this will kind of answer your question in a sense a little bit too, is that, like, she's the vessel you're viewing this stuff through. And although she has input, like, her input is kind of like she's kind of like the litmus test for you.
Right.
Okay.
Like, if you're reading McKenna in the beginning and you're jiving with McKenna, you're going to have a real hard time through the end of the book. But if you're like in the beginning and you're like, McKenna, come on, seriously, pay attention. Look what's in front of you. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, then you get further on. You're like, now she's getting it. Now she's up to this page, and like she's really like a really good measure or gauge of your spiritual walk and where you are and where you line up with stuff that's going on. Because as she's getting it, you're like, okay, now she's catching on. Now she's where I'm at.
Right.
Now
And
we're cooking with
then she's
fire.
going to go down a path,
Yeah.
and you're going to be like, oh, now I'm challenged.
So, if I may ask, Nolan, when did you start liking or cheering for McKenna? Since you've read the whole book.
See, I was up and down the whole time. The beginning of the book, I was just like, come on, get over it. I think, see, I don't want to give too. I will say that there is a certain.
There's 3 acts, so maybe do it that way. Was it in
well, no,
act
it was in
two?
it. I believe it would be Act 1,
Okay.
where they go to a certain party.
Oh, okay. That's in chapter 5.
Yes,
That's chapter 5.
they go to a certain party and a certain event happens to McKenna.
You can say what it is. It's a graduation party.
Well, it's a graduation party, and I'm going to tell you this right now. There's a reason why this is probably, even though it's for young adults, teenagers.
Parents, please.
They should probably be around the 15 to 16 age,
Yes.
because the topics that get breached in chapter 5 are not topics that you would normally read in Christian fiction. I'm going to tell you this right now, people. This is not your grandmother's Christian fiction. It's not.
No.
Okay? No, it is
I
not.
only got through chapter 3, and I'm
is-
like, no.
It is much darker. It is much
Smacked
darker.
in the face.
It is much darker than
Oh, that too. Yeah.
than a lot than other Christian books. I've read a lot of different quote unquote Christian fiction. It's a lot darker. It breaches topics that would definitely keep it off of the Christian bookshelves.
Well, can I correct you real quick?
I hope not.
And I want to change a frame of reference from here on out, just for everybody here at this table. Like, we say darker, but I don't want to say darker. It's the truth.
Yeah,
It's the truth. It's speaking.
It's edgier. It's edgier.
It's not shying away from the hard stuff. Like, you're not going to talk about it because it makes you uncomfortable. It'd be like, no, I'm going to tell you this because it should make you uncomfortable, and
Right.
good that it does. Because if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, then there's something wrong.
This
with
is,
it.
but this is the,
Right.
and this is the God's honest truth. This is stuff. The topics that you breach, that Jesse breaches in this book, honestly, should have been taught from the pulpit for the last few decades and
I
haven't
can
been
agree
taught.
with that.
Okay, she is breaching in the subject matter of this book, and yes, it's a good. Like, look, the story is very, very well done. I will tell somebody if I think their book, if I think a book is crap. But yeah, it had to be with a certain event in chapter 5 that happens at that party.
Okay.
It also made me not like another character who I later had to come around and like.
For me, I think chapter 5, the same event. I think that's a major changing event.
Some
for her.
butthead just sitting by a tree that
but
let her
then-
walk by.
but then-
You have issues with him till later.
But then I feel like there's a part, and I don't know what chapter it is. So you'll have to help me out with the chapter here, hon. But
Sure.
the part where they get their assignments when they're part of a certain group and they get their assignments.
Are you talking about the?
I don't want to give away too much. So
Are we talking about your assignments, as in your life assignments from the government?
No.
Or are you talking about?
They're separate? They're separatist assignments. Let's put it to you that way. I'm using different terms.
So since I've already said that this is like a dystopian Christian fiction,
When they get to the camp and they get their
if you're
instructions.
familiar with dystopian literature, there's always a group that's the resistance, a resistance group. So you could even say that.
Yeah,
But so when they're at the camp and they get their marching orders, so to speak, I would say that's probably where I think you start
That's at the very end of Act 2.
Yeah, I think that's a good part where that's a big shift from the McKenna,
Now, I will tell you-
McKenna in the very beginning of the book, who's like wandering aimlessly and has no idea which way's up and down and just kind of being led by whoever, to this point where she really gets pushed into.
She's got to be what
I
she's
need to
supposed
do
be.
something.
Well, she's still making
other
some
than-
emotional decisions.
No, I didn't say emotional decisions. No,
I will-
I wouldn't even say she's making emotional decisions. I don't mind that she's making emotional decisions. She's not letting other people make decisions for her.
Yeah,
She starts
it's-
actually making her own
I
decisions.
think a big
Starting.
cheering point
Yeah.
for McKenna. Because like I said, McKenna at the beginning, I wanted to smack her upside the head. The big cheering point for McKenna was when she was in a certain chair that we're not fully naming.
Yeah.
And that happened. And again, before I ask this question, because I know this question is probably going to be, do you have any more questions?
wait.
I have one small quick question,
Okay.
and it's really simple. In this book, we going to find out about Claire? Like,
Okay, so to clarify, Claire
Is
is
the
the
sister.
sister who is in very early stages. So the beginning stages of the book, and this isn't really spoiler because you can even read some of it on.
It's in the first chapter.
It's
There's
like first
blood.
chapter. Claire has been pretty much pronounced dead, and the whole point of McKenna's mourning is basically because you're introduced in the story at the very beginning that they're preparing for the final MIA.
they never found the body.
Because they never found the body, so
Yeah.
she was kind of still like a missing person. But after so long, they basically take
We're
that tag off
declaring her
and
dead.
they're being
Yeah.
declared dead. So this is like the actual final funeral service
And-
that her parents and her are
It-
going to
it-
have to mourn the death of their daughter.
In the words of Dickens, Claire was dead from the beginning.
So I
got her.
so the point is that
Claire was dead to begin
so
with.
Claire is so. What ask your question again?
So in the book, am I going to find out the actual
Like what happened?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
You
Okay.
You are going to know a lot more.
Let me
you
put it
will
to
know
you.
in chapter
You
3
will know
exactly what happened.
You will know
Oh,
what
okay.
happened to her, and you will also know more because even though you learn about what happened to her, there's things that you learned then. Remember, like when Nolan said, you can just take everything you learned and just crumple it up and throw it out.
Yeah.
Then there's something like that later down the road as well.
Yeah, because
So-
you're going to think one direction.
In,
And I mean
in
the
chapter
band.
3, you'll find out what happened to Claire, and you'll also find out the reason why McKenna is in Miss Phillips's office.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So
All right.
Wench.
it is
And Miss Phillips is this.
no
We'll say she's
She's a CME Tuesday.
she's your
a
guidance
very
counselor.
authoritative guidance counselor.
Authoritative, not authoritative, manipulative.
Manipulative.
See,
So to answer your question, the answer is yes. You will find out
All right,
in the
so-
chapter you're in and
Okay,
more
so go
later.
ahead.
Now I have my question, and this is
Okay.
something that all right, like I said, I've read other Christian dystopian stuff, other Christian fiction that deals with the rapture and the end times, and I've read all these other things.
Mhm.
Most of them all do it the same way. You see the physical ramifications of the rapture. You see the physical ramifications of the end times. You never see the spiritual. All you see is the physical evidence. So my question to you is, because it has been done very, very creatively, where did you get the inspiration for how you are depicting the spiritual things that are happening in dreams and visions? Because they're not even typical for Christian teachings.
So, this is where if you follow me on Instagram and if you begin to follow me as, an author, you'll hear me talk about writing with the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
And I literally, the way I write is I sit down and I take some time in prayer, and I just invite like the Holy Spirit to like talk to me and to guide me in writing this story, because obviously I believe that part of the whole reason why I started writing this book is because I believe that there's a message that God wants to say through this book, through this story of telling of McKenna, to not just Christians, but to anybody who picks up this book and reads it. And I believe that it's a powerful, really strong message. And so I wanted to make sure that I included God in that. And it wasn't just like some brainiac idea that came out of my head. And so if you've ever spent time with God and you give God permission to talk to you about anything, God will take you in some very fun, very interesting places. And sometimes they are uncomfortable places because you confront areas of yourself, and sometimes they're very light and they're very easy conversations, and sometimes it's just, well, did you ever think about this? So a lot of these moments that I'm writing in these dreamlike states, it comes out of these conversations and this prayer time that I've talked about with God about, well, how would this look, or how could this possibly be? And God, like how could this have happened? And he might lead me to a scripture and go, so did you ever think of it like this? And then I would get like this picture in my mind, and I'd be like, oh, that would be really cool. Or sometimes like I would be like just in prayer, and like there would be like, I would get this check to like look up like a whirlwind, or look up like, a rushing river or something like that. And then like I would, in watching that video, I would like, sometimes you see like how lights are dancing off like the ripples and currents of brooks and rivers and stuff like that. So that's kind of how some of these depictions and some of these we'll say, creative description.
Well, I mean,
Came
look,
about.
we all know that this book is an end times thing. If anybody who has ever read the Bible or has ever, shoot, it's not even just in the Bible. A lot of video games pull this out. They will pull out the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay, so they are mentioned in this book. I'm not going to say how. I'm not going to say in what.
Well, you got
fashion.
and you have a lot of other.
So
things too.
there's a lot of other things, but I'm just going to go off the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Your depiction of that is very, very, very different than anything else I've read. I like how you're doing it. It's a very interesting way of looking at it, and I have to say that if it, I don't want to say as simple because I don't want to downplay it, but if it really has just been that simple of, hey, God, unleash my creativity. How can I do this? And God showing you. Fantastic, because it reads fantastic.
I'm gonna
jump in here. I love a lot of what I love, because you're going to encounter this, Steve. You'll know this very soon because you're going to catch into a few chapters, and it's going to be. I mean, there's chapters that are nothing but McKenna sleeping and dreaming or having visions, and there are spiritual things happening in these visions and dreams. And the way that,
one other thing that I will say that really does help me in writing is music.
Yeah,
music. So like when you go to chapter 5. In order to get like the feel and the pulse of like that party, I actually put on like a immersive writing channel, but it was more of a techno, like kind of like
dance
trippy type music type thing to kind of get into like the mood of that thing.
They can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. You said dance techno. Both of them two just started dropping little dance beats off in the microphone.
So to kind of get into it, and it, like the interesting thing is that
nobody's doing the horn.
When you look at this at the immersive writing playlist, they have images that go on like the computer screen or the TV screen, depending on what you're playing it through. And this one like was all like very Alice in Wonderland-esque images of like.
Oh, so it's one of those videos that don't be on an acid trip. Gotcha.
Like this fantastical forest with neon colors and stuff. So it was very interesting.
So like, and this kind of goes along with, and mind you, I've been here during the writing process. So I've been around her. I've been in the room with her sometimes. I've helped her through certain parts, even sometimes.
He's hugged his pillow a little more at night after her Google searches.
Sometimes, you know. So, but like when you ask that question, here's the thing that I think is really awesome, because a lot of writers who do these types of things and they go into the eschatology stuff and they go into this, what they do is they read Revelation, and then what they'll do is they'll go to the prophets. Mm-hmm. And they will literally translate out the prophets, right? There was this movie by Nick Cage, Knowing, I think it was, right? Where like at the end, you get the depiction of God in this alien planet with these gears and these wheels within wheels. And it's like, dude, you just read Ezekiel. I'm like, you went literal. Like everybody knows if you read Ezekiel, my man was literally on something. Okay. I mean, he was a good prophet, not saying, but the stuff he saw is trippy.
Well, it's not just that it was trippy. It wasn't just the fact that it was trippy, but also at the same time he was seeing something that they didn't even have words for.
I understand, and that's the point, right? You're going through and you're reading these prophets, and you're using these prophets as the drawing block, right? Of other, I'm talking about the other people who you've criticized or whatever, who've done this writing. The title of the book is Revelations. The idea of Revelations is to read it and get the revelation from God directly. Yes. And what she did is she literally went through reading these parts in Revelations and allowed God to reveal to her what it is that he wants her to showcase in this book. And that's why you're getting it. You're literally getting spiritual revelation from a vessel of a person,
and it's very, very creatively
likes to be
done.
communicating with God and wants to find out what he has to say and go, okay, here, I'm going to put this out here. And it's not like, oh, well, is that far-fetched, or is it, or can we again go ahead and like, oh, treat Jess as a prophet and let's put her on this pedestal and say, oh, this is the end time story now coming through this.
Which is what they did to the Left Behind people.
Don't do that. I'm not encouraging that. But what I'm saying is that if you read it and you understand that that's what's happening in the book, you'll have a better understanding of this is the journey that, like, again, McKenna's going through, but the spiritual realities that you're seeing in the book are depicted through revelation, actual revelation, through Revelations, the book. So it's like, that's why you're able to see and hear and feel this, like, kind of this pulse throughout the book that goes, wow, that's a really awesome way to see that, or that's a really awesome way to say, hey, this is how this should have been done, or maybe that's what they were talking about in Revelations. It's like, yeah, everybody knows the dragon's not a dragon. Like, everybody knows that. Like, if dragons existed, we all know we'd all have one trained and we'd all be flying around on it. Okay, if they existed, that would happen. How to Train Your Dragon would be a real thing. We would die trying a lot, but somebody would succeed, and we would have pet dragons. It just would happen. Look, we had pet cats. We domesticated tigers. Look, like,
No. They got their face chewed off.
No, we have domesticated. I'm not talking about those two. But literally, the whole concept of a dog and a cat is literally inbreeding to the point where they become domesticated. Like, we would have done that with dragons. There's no doubt. We would have domesticated dragons.
Instead of a mini pincher, somebody would have a mini dragon.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
they have their own wushu.
That to say that, like, when you hear about the things that you hear about in Revelations, it's clear that you're talking about, like, large flying, like, planes that shoot machine guns out of
or
we
helicopters.
Have them. Yeah. Like, this is stuff we exist and we could see and go, oh yeah, I guess that could be a helicopter, couldn't it? Or that could be a tank, couldn't it? And it's like, well, we know that because we're here, but you're talking about a person who
had no language for it,
didn't know what even all of these things were, and bestly described what they could see with what God was showing them with the things that they
did. I think one of the ways that I really gave that to you in this was definitely in how I handled some of the emissaries. And one of the emissaries, I thought the way that I wrote him, he was like in your face and you realized who he was.
No.
And apparently
I thought the head emissary was somebody else till later. All I gotta say is I want to be casted as him in the movie. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you ain't handsome enough. I've
seen
her pictures.
I did a really good job.
I've seen her pictures for her casting. You ain't handsome enough. Sorry.
Nope.
You ain't got all the teeth. You need more teeth.
Oh, I can get my teeth fit. I can get new ones.
Nope. Sorry. You also lack a certain muscular body.
Oh, I can get that too.
Good luck. Keep
not that one.
No, I know who you're talking about. No, I know who you're talking about. Look, I'm just telling you. Look, I know who she casted. I've seen the pictures.
Look,
I know who they are.
I want to be casted.
Good luck.
I'm saying I can play it good. I can play it well.
Ask your next question so we can move on.
You can cosplay as him.
Nah. I want to be on screen. I want to be on screen.
Good luck.
So I
definitely don't want to be McKenna's dad.
No.
No. But I also want to bring up, because this has happened with a few different people. I am one of these people that you have created not only a grouping of, you have your main character, McKenna, you have a grouping of supporting characters that she has around her, but you have also created lovable NPCs, as I will call them. Because my favorite, look, her name is Lindy. Y'all will see her when you read the book. Lindy, you will see her. Look, I know that there's not going to be much of Lindy, and I'm okay with that. But at the same time,
there's more of Lindy. But
she's a Southern belle, and she has these Southern sayings, and I love them. It made me giggle so flipping bad, because I'm just like, I've heard people talk like this. This is great, and I'm not the only one, because like your mom was like, well, what about this character? Not important. NPC. No, what about this character? Not important.
My mom
NPC.
really, I'm going to tell you right now, I hope she watches this video, because she was cracking me up when she was reading this one chapter. And actually, I can pull it up because it's marked right here. I forget the guy's name. What was his name?
Jacoba.
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 Jacoba, whatever.
Which means deceiver.
But let me tell you something. When you get to this part and you discover
Yes,
Jacob,
names even mean something in this book.
my mom, you remember we watched the Epic NPC, man.
Yes.
You know how like they meet people and they're like they want to know the backstory. What's your family tree? What's this? What's this? What's this? That was how my mom was with Jacob. But she's like, I want to know more about him. He's very mysterious. He's very like eerie, and he's got this like I want to know more about him. I'm like, mom,
He's gotta have a redemption.
move on. No,
Not
just
important.
move on.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
And I'm not trying to say his part in what he does isn't important, but he has a part to play. He plays his part. Move on.
I stay for fishing, ain't it?
Did you want to read that, Gary, or did you want?
So I don't know because
Talk about Lindy.
I think we'll talk about Lindy because
Well, if we go, let's put. I know that we had originally planned. I also did that. Like I could sit here and talk for hours, y'all. I love this book. I can't wait for more and more people. I keep smacking my son because he's one of those people that's not really a reader. So pushing him to read something can
Tell him
be.
to get to chapter 2.
He's past chapter 2.
He's past chapter 2, and he's slow.
Yeah,
Like I'm a slow reader. Like I'm really slow. And it takes me a lot to try.
He's the
and
video
comprehend.
game generation. He doesn't know what it's like to hold a book.
Tell him he doesn't have to hold a book.
I will tell you this. The part that she wanted to read, it's a little long. I'm not going to read the excerpt, hon. But I do want to talk about the excerpt if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, go for it. I mean, we're at an hour 6. Like, if we're good. All right. If y'all haven't noticed already, we're going over today.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't care.
But
okay. So if somebody has a problem with it,
it's not that. It's just
You're
that.
welcome. It's added content today.
pause and watch the rest tomorrow. I'll tell you.
But I will tell you this though: the excerpt it's a little long, what you wanted to read, but I will tell you parts of the excerpt, and I will get to the point. So there's a part. What chapter is this in?
Well, if you flip the pages over to the left a little bit, you'll find out what chapter it was in.
It'll tell you.
The chapter.
The book will tell you. It's not that hard to operate. I'm sorry. Are you so used to the digital age? You
can't back to chapter.
I think it's chapter 8.
You are correct. Yep, chapter 8, Act 2.
Chapter 8.
So there's a part in chapter 8 where McKenna is getting a tour. I'm going to just keep it that way. And Jacob is the one giving the tour. And it's this facility. And in this facility, you're seeing how kids are being educated. And the reason why she wanted me to bring this up was because of
educated.
So the reason why she wanted to bring this up is because this has a lot to do with subjects and things that we've talked about, even here on the podcast, and where the relevancy of this comes in. And in this education system, they have the kids, they're in class, and they're being told by the teacher that they are going to have to answer through a visual representation. The teacher will administer either a lie or truth. If it's the truth, they have to put a blindfold on their eyes, covering their eyes, and
frown.
And frown because they don't want the truth, because the truth is depicted as hurtful or harmful to them, and how the truth always will cause harm or damage them, and that lies protect you and shield you, and they keep you safe and they keep you comforted. And so then they're told when they hear a lie, they take the blindfold off and they smile as though they're welcoming and receiving like a greeting.
In other words, welcome the lie as the truth and disregard the truth as if it's a lie.
Right. And so in this exercise, the teacher explicitly says, if you answer correctly and everybody gets 100, no homework. Now, remember when you were in school, if the teacher gave you a way out of getting homework,
absolutely,
you rose to that occasion, right? You ran for it. So there's this little bit of like oddness with that first presentation, but then you get the manipulative process of the way they do it. And then the teacher expresses, however, if you don't answer correctly, there's a punishment. And so then the exercise starts, and one of the questions that the teacher asks, and let's see, where is that?
While you look for that, I'll just briefly talk about this as well, is that even early in the book, you get the knowledge of the re-education and the punishments for doing certain
Oh yeah,
things.
everybody gets re-educated.
So,
You
I
either
mean,
fall
it's-
in line or you're re-educated.
Yeah.
And if you can't be re-educated, you're slaughtered.
And it's very important because even to this day, they are slowly, between taking our gun rights away.
Well, they haven't
taking
taken
our
them, but they're
freedom-
trying.
They're trying. And they're trying to take our freedom of speech away. They're trying to do all that stuff to do what they want.
Oh, they're trying to.
Good
They're
old
trying.
communism.
they're-
It's
they're-
good for the country.
They're trying to manipulate our children into neutering themselves because of trans garbage.
Right.
Because they're trying to force us into that because you might hurt your kid's feelings if you don't give into what
So-
your 2-year-old says he wants to wear a tutu the rest of his life. So hawk off his
So
bits.
Would
So
you
if
say?
I could jump in here real quick
sure,
to
go
just kind of talk about something that Gary had mentioned, it was really important when I was writing this part to give you in a very subtle way the
It
understanding
ain't that subtle.
that people understand what is truth and what is a lie. So
Mhm.
these kids, they already understand that this is a lie and this is a truth, but they're being conditioned to either accept the truth or to repel against the truth or accept the lie. And so it's like what you have in this scene that I give you is that it's right now we have a big argument about
Well, I was going to read it.
what
actually.
is truth, what is truth, and my truth isn't the same as yours. But in this particular thing, the core element that I'm giving to you is that we all actually recognize what is a truth and what is lie. We just may not want to accept it.
So
Yep.
right. So here's the scene basically, and I'm just going to get through it real quick. But the teacher stops at the desk of a young boy who couldn't be more than 8 years old. He peers down at the child as though evaluating he was a prey or fiend. Twisted smile slowly emerges on his face as he licks his lip hungrily before calling out, "Jaren is a boy." The class immediately grabs their sashes and frowns. One child, the boy the teacher was glaring at and who apparently is named Jaren, sits waiting to be addressed, his head cast down, sending a wave of wheat blonde hair across his eyes. His sash remains untouched on his desk, and he looks like he might cry. The teacher's eyes narrow as he makes a motion for the child to stand up. The boy stood up slowly and addressed his instructor. "Sir, I could not comply with your statement." The teacher corrects him. "You chose not to comply. Did you not understand the directions?" Jaren shifted uneasily as if unsure how to respond. "Sir, I understood the directions. However, you found them to be incomplete. You said for true statements we had to blind ourselves with our sashes. You said nothing about facts. It's a fact that I am a boy. It's scientifically inarguable." Now, I'm not going to continue reading.
And then they proceed to do something because
the punishment is that he basically, and this is kind of really awesome because later on he switches the statement about the truth and the lie, and he substituted truth with facts.
Correct.
The boy was correct, and he argued that point, but the teacher literally in the middle of this discussion basically substituted the truth with facts and basically then instructed the punishment. And the punishment was the rest of the class had to literally beat him to death.
Well,
Almost to death. I would
To-
say
beat him to a
within
pulp.
an inch of his life.
to a pulp. Beat him to a
And-
pulp.
within an inch of his life.
And now, so
That was the punishment.
that whole section, that was like what? It was like 2 paragraphs, okay, of this.
And there's a lot.
You want to talk about the stuff that gets hit there hard. Gender bending junk. You got the instructing that to an 8-year-old child. You have the abuse of power from the
manipulation
teachers, the manipulation of truth over facts. This stuff, and it's in the education system
Today.
Like this isn't like, this is dystopian fiction, or is it? You gotta go, is it really?
If you were to continue on in that part, Gary, the rest of the classmates come together and beat him, but they're still wearing their
blinded
red
sashes,
sashes.
Yeah.
And they're still blinded to their
Gleefully
actions. And
blinded.
that was it was really important for me to leave that detail in there about how they were blinded. They were willfully blinding themselves
because they don't want to deal with the consequences of having to watch the reality of their actions.
Because all they were seeing was red. All they were seeing was the red sashes, and it was a commentary about how when we're getting swooped up into the propaganda of what we're being conditioned to believe, we allow ourselves to be blinded instead of seeing the person or the classmate or the loved one who we're coming against. Yep. And it was supposed to be a metaphor for that. So
So it's a metaphor for what happened at Thanksgiving dinner tables after Trump became president.
That might not be far from the truth.
So I got one more question. Would you say the government is more communist, dictatorship?
Oh, I would honestly say
it's totalitarian.
I would say it's more totalitarian, but honestly, and this is something that's interesting. I would even go one step further.
You can't give away too much because there's so much I want to say to that answer.
You can go ahead and answer that. Go ahead.
The reality is that it's not even.
No, because I'd be mentioning parts of the book that he hasn't read yet.
It's not a government. No. I don't mean it. I don't mean it to say like I'm spoiling. It is a government, but it's not a government that we have here. Like you really couldn't compare it. Like we are throwing those out, but they're like it's the best way to describe it, but it's not.
Oh, shush.
It's the closest you can get. Like you might understand communism, but then you go, ooh, that's not even communism. So you go, it's totalitarianism, dictatorship. Nah, but that's not that either. You know, like it crosses.
I will tell you exactly what it is set up as. It is set up as a totalitarian federal system.
Right.
There is no state system. And it is considered a commonwealth, which is why
which, by the way, believe it or not, Pennsylvania is a commonwealth.
But I changed the terminology of what commonwealth meant.
Right.
So the definition of a commonwealth is about the common good of its citizens, and the commonwealth is about what is good for the government, the federal government. It's not about
changing definitions. Well, who else is doing that lately?
It's not about. So, like, it is kind of a new government system, but with the focus. So you have this federal system that is in power, but yet at the same time,
I just want to mention
you have this kind of where it's for the good, it's for the general good, but what is determined by the federal government.
See, all I gotta say is I've read this whole thing. And I got it in pieces as it was being still edited.
Episode of content
fed to you.
All I had, it was torturous on some days. Because I get to the end, I'm like, Jesse, I need the next chapter. When am I getting it? Oh, you'll get it in 2 days. No, I need it now. No, but see, she's saying all that till you read the last chapter or two, and you find out really how things are run.
Yeah, and that's
who knows what and doesn't know what, and who allows what and doesn't allow what, and who's really pulling the strings.
And this is
and
where
your brain goes poof.
But this is where I say it's, and that's why I'm not saying it's not a government. It is a government, but this spiritual aspect of this book becomes a lot more relevant.
Just doing my job.
And so that's where you realize, that's when you realize that it's, I without saying any, I mean, really.
Yeah, I know. I have to bite my tongue.
It's so hard. It's so good. It's so hard. I don't want to say anything.
Question. I will pose this question, and you guys can answer it. So, and Steve, you can even answer it from what you think now, and then I would be interested in after you read the stuff, after you actually read it. Do you agree with what your initial statement was? So my question is, the four horsemen, we know, the four horsemen of the apocalypse are going to be sent to, like, they have a job to do. And they are commissioned by God to come down at a certain time. And they have
just
certain
doing my
jobs
job, man.
they have to do. So and part of their job is actually punishment of mankind for the for the
Oh, I know what question
generations,
she's going to ask.
the
We had this
generations
discussion.
and the generations and the continual rejection of God and his offer of forgiveness of our sins, and the constant perpetual gravitation to sin and wickedness. Okay, so that's part of their job. Okay, we get that in Revelation. So this is not a shocker. This is not like blowing it. So the question is, can you really fault someone who's just doing their job for it, like a character that's just doing their job, that's being commissioned from God? They're just fulfilling what is their job from God, but yet it's causing pain and heartache and affliction.
I would like to go first.
No,
here.
no. See, I like the other way that you said it to me, Jess.
Okay, how did I say it to you?
No.
Wait, how did I say it to you, Nolan?
You said your question to me was: is it really? Are they really evil if they're only doing their job?
And
okay, so are they really evil if they're doing? We'll say that.
So here's where I want to take the first shot on this, and then I'll let you guys fill in. But when you go in and you read, it's very bad because we have been given such a diet through television, all kind of dramatizations about the four horsemen of the apocalypse and this horrific end of days delivery that they are responsible for, that they get a really bad rep for themselves, and you lose sight of the fact that this was an architectural design by God. No different than you, me, everything that we have in existence.
Well, slightly different. They have different powers.
Okay. But the point of it, but they were given them by God. So, and they were given everything they are given is given by God. And so when you read it, and this is where I go, that revelation part is so important. And that what she did with the revelation that God gave her here with the four horsemen, you are really going to have to reevaluate your whole mentality on God's judgment. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's probably the best way to answer this question without, again, spoiling things.
Yeah, I know. But it's hard because I know what happens.
When you understand that everything that you read when you get to the parts with the four horsemen is God's judgment, you have to see things. It forces you to see things from a very different perspective or a very different lens. Yeah. So it's really interesting because I don't care, unless you are a deep diver into eschatology and you are a person who reads Revelations like nobody else has been like that. Like you go, oh, what's your favorite book of the Bible? Revelations. What part? Oh, especially the part about the four horsemen. That's my favorite part. Like if you were that guy, you might be able to pick up some of this stuff. But for the most part,
and I'm somebody who enjoys reading Revelations, and I've read it several times. I don't study it that far. Yes, you're correct.
But for the most part, you're not going to, because you always have this
which is why
worldly driven mentality about what they do and what their role is, and I'm just going to say demonization that we throw upon them because of what they do,
what their job is,
what they do. It's not about who they are or anything else. It's simply about what they do, and we just see that as inherently bad.
Just like Belichick tells the rest of the Patriots. Well, after he tells them to cheat,
deflate the balls.
No, after he tells them to cheat, he says, "Just do your job."
Right.
So for me personally, I don't think that would be inherently evil. I know what they do is bad, I guess you could say.
What we would call bad.
What we would call bad, right. But because it's been commissioned by God, I can't call them evil.
But see, that's what a lot of people look. I enjoy Revelations. I've read Revelations, read Daniel. I've done different searches. I enjoy looking at eschatology from the three major ways of looking at it, except for preterism? That's those people need help. I'm sorry, but anyway, preterists. But the that's why I've loved what you've done with this, Jess. is because number one, most end times books, because they don't know how to answer. They at least the way it looks, the authors don't know how to bring the spiritual into a perspective that people could read it and enjoy it, and what maybe even learn something from it as fiction. They always seem to stick with the physical. Oh, we know that the scripture says this over here. It says that, this seal got broken, this horseman goes and does this, but they don't ever link. All they do is show you the physical ramifications. They never link it to the spiritual. And that is one thing you have done immensely fantastic in this one, is because not only do you have that physical ramification, and actually the books your book does not fully go into the physical ramification. At this point, not yet, because at this point, it's setting up what's already happening.
I wouldn't even say that yes and no, because
because
some
I have, and yes, I have not.
I was going to say no, it's not spoilers, but I would say this is one of the things that I think is really great, and this isn't a spoiler, but this is probably going to be one of the biggest things if you are a fan of eschatology, if you do like that kind of subject material. I would highly recommend you read this book for the very, very simple purpose of
give you a different way of imagining things that have been said.
Not just the imagination side of it, but here's my biggest takeaway. The
imagination thing is the best part of it.
I loved going through this process with her and learning and hearing what God was saying through her with this, the understanding of their role in this world.
Still one of my favorite lines, and I can't say give it away.
Yeah, is probably one of my favorite things.
I want to know what your favorite line is.
No, offline. I know what it is, and yes,
that is a spoiler. No, that is a spoiler.
It's a spoiler. So no, but their role in the world that you are getting there, you are seeing and experiencing them.
Not that one.
When you are seeing their involvement in the role, and you're seeing the world, that the way they're interacting with the world, it really, really makes you sit there and go, reading Revelations, reading this stuff and seeing it here, you go, oh, that makes way too much sense. Like, that makes so much sense in the way things are happening in the world that you honestly kind of sit back and go, yeah, I mean, that's not far-fetched. And I'm not going like, oh, where's the horse? Oh, they were on a Mustang. No, like, they didn't drive cars.
What is this, a Leonardo DiCaprio version of Romeo and Juliet?
Like, this is where
it's a gun that says sword.
Like, this is what I mean. Like, when you're trying to literalize things into your book, you get into trouble. You didn't do that. You took the concept of this part of the Four Horsemen, and you involved that concept into your book in a really deep way. And I think that that's probably what is the best part of this whole entire series. And honestly, like you said, it starts in this book. Some are like really into their role. Some are, nothing about their role. Some you are learning a little bit about their role. And then you will know more later. And that's what the rest of the series is really, really, really going to make a sense of all that.
The last two chapters.
Did it blow your mind?
Not so much blow your mind, but the last two chapters solidifies the concept of I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
Everyone has a job, and I'm doing my job. It solidifies that. Everybody has a job. You're going to do your job. I know what your job is. I know what my job is. We're all going to do our jobs, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
So, well, and then there's Hayden.
Oh, don't get not.
And then there's Hayden.
Hey, look, I'm still waiting for two individuals to meet an untimely, No. It wouldn't be untimely. It'd be a very timely and brutal ending of their time in this world that you have created.
That is a huge compliment that you gave me, Gary. And I wrote this book because one of the things that I really felt pressed on my heart, that like the Holy Spirit was really like pressing on me, was that like so many people are so willing to stay blinded to revelations. Like they're like, no, I don't want to know how the world ends. I don't want to know how everything comes about. And they're like so scared to open up that book and read it. And there's a lot of good things in that book, but I kind of wanted to make it less scary. And I say it almost as a question because it's a dystopian fiction.
Wait.
It's
Less scary than don't read. Don't read
now,
in the teen chapters.
I would honestly say it's not. I wouldn't say you made it less scary. I would say you made it more relatable.
It's
Yes.
I wanted to make it more relatable. Exactly.
That is what you did.
You can relate to, that it doesn't seem so beyond you that you want to stick your head in the sand and not look into it, but that you want to like, who is this Hayden that you're talking about, and who, like, you want to dive into it. It's like these are names and characters that I've put on to, you know, kind of frame out some of the characters that are in play of Revelation, and it draws you in. They become relatable. You either love them or you hate them, but that's the point. They have roles to play, as Nolan was saying, and they have to play those roles, and some of those roles are a bit darker than others, and some of them are a bit brighter than others. So
and some are just downright evil.
Well,
certain ones are.
Well,
I'm gonna flat out say it. There are certain ones just do their job.
But here's the thing, though, and this is,
you know who you are, Babylon.
This is where I say that
not giving it away. I won't.
It's in Revelations. You can't give it away.
This is true. This is where I think, though, that, again, am I biased? Sure. I say it all the time. Yeah, I'm biased. But you know what? I'm still honest in my bias. When you get to the certain parts of this story and you learn about the four horsemen, you learn about all these. I'll say the actors. I'll just say the actors. You learn about the actors that are in your book, and you learn about what their roles are, and you learn about what they're doing. Honestly, when you get done this book and you finish it, and you obviously know there's more coming, you are left at the end of this book in a perfect spot. And the name of the book, I think, is really good. It's called Blinded for a reason. Mm-hmm. You are going to come out of this going, either I'm going to be one of those people who's going to be blinded, and I'm going to have to walk through this too. But like you said, not to say it's a light side of it, but it's not like your Left Behind Revelation story where you're kind of like, oh no, this is what it's going to be to be a Revelation saint. This is what it's going to mean to be left behind. I don't want to be left behind. You know what I mean? Like I feel it's kind of hokey. Your book kind of makes you go like, all right, it might be Mad Max in the Thunderdome, but I think I could fight through it. Like, I think I can make it. I think I got a chance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of feel like that when you're done reading the book. But at the same time, you leave at the end of this book going, but I don't want to be here for that. What do I got to do to make sure that I'm not going to be in that spot?
I can honestly
I'm not going to be in those positions.
And I can actually honestly say, for people who read fiction or even watch Christian movies, I'm sorry, it's one of the things that Christian entertainment does wrong 1,000 times over. And that is the quote unquote conversion or redemption scene. This one's a good one.
What did you love about that redemption scene?
Well, number one, it wasn't just some hokey, but done in the. All right, it wasn't done in a physical realm. Okay, yeah. This was done. So it was not done with that hokey. Oh Jesus, wherefore art thou? You know, I mean, so many Christian entertainment does it foul. But this one was done in a way that was creative. It gave a artistic look at what is actually happening when somebody gets saved. Because we hear, oh, your heart of stone is taken out. You get a heart of flesh. now Jesus sits inside your heart and you can hear him. Now he dwells within
He's just
you.
a little Jesus. He's just little Jesus right in here.
It's your
Yeah.
forever hope.
It's a lot of this stuff has
forever
become
hope.
Christian. A lot of this stuff has become Christianese, and we Christians say it so easily because it's in
you know
scripture.
it so he can teach your
But what
kids.
does that actually mean? I'm the type of person that would hear things in scripture and go, "Okay, that sounds good. What does that mean?" Or, "Oh, I see that I'm supposed to be doing that, but how do I do that in my life here and now?" Like, what does that mean? And it is a very creative way of making it. Honestly, I couldn't wait to. I honestly, if the Lord shall deem it so that the movie is made, I would love to see how a lot of these dreams are done.
Yeah.
But
I definitely
we-
would say this is one of those reads where you get done the book and you're like, oh, I could so see this being in the movies.
Yeah, like
this being in the movie.
like, and the way you describe
If
it.
there is a literary agent who is watching this and would like to contact me to represent me, that is fine. You can contact me.
But we have hit an hour and 35 minutes, and we've gone way over. We were hoping to play a little game, but it's such good stuff. Maybe we'll have to have Jess back on again and just do games as Steve gets further in and he actually meets my favorite NPC in the book, Lindy. I love Lindy. We can do the game that was about different possible Southern sayings and such, but we can do that at another time. Jess, I want to thank you for two things. Number one, for having the courage to step out into a severely unknown area and writing a masterful work of literary art, as well as something that can tug at the heartstrings of people's hearts, hopefully to open their eyes to a spiritual realm. So I want to first of all thank you for doing that. Secondly, I want to thank you for coming on here and again gracing our screen with this subject and with the willingness just to listen to God. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. I always knew Jess was going to write a book. I never thought it was going to be a fiction book. I thought it would be some deep revelation going through the Bible and some deep teaching. And that's here. Just never thought it would be through a fiction book. So if you haven't picked it up,
I was going to say, is it in
the Amazon link is in my link tree. So if you go in the link tree in the description, you can get it. It's, I believe, the top. If it's not top, it's the second thing on my link tree.
Yeah. Also, if you're not a weightlifter, you can get the.
It is on Kindle.
$6. So yeah.
And for those of you who are book nerds, like some of us, and you prefer a hard copy, it is coming.
Mm-hmm.
It is coming. Believe me, y'all will know when I get mine because it'll be plastered all over social media.
And I have some exciting news as well.
Oh, what's this?
This Friday, it's long overdue, but this Friday will be the day that we will be launching the website, The Literary Fox, where people will be able to actually follow more on my writing, but also you'll be able to get more on blinded lore, meaning like more stuff that kind of explains more things about the book and the series, little Easter eggs, little things that are in there, like just to kind of continue to wet your palate until book 2 is written.
All right. Well, do you have the well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's not there yet, but as soon as the website is up and I have the website address, I will have that as well in my link tree, so you can easily go get that. Also, if you want to follow Jess, they go Facebook, Jessica Podosek. You can follow her on Facebook.
And Instagram.
You have an Instagram now. Is your Instagram Jessica Podosek as well, or
Jess Podosek?
Jess Podosek. So Jess Podosek on Instagram. She's a dork like the rest of us. She posts a lot of cool stuff, a lot about the book, and other things. Sometimes there's Fox videos. You might have to forgive her for the Fox videos.
You'll find out about my writing journey on there.
Yeah.
I've posted some videos about my writing journey of what I've gone through in writing blinded, and even that was an incredible, amazing
So go on there, go on Instagram, go on Facebook, follow her. You'll be able to know what's going on when it happens. Obviously, in the link tree in the bio, follow me on Facebook, Twitter. Obviously, if you're listening to this on or watching this on YouTube, please like it, share it, post it, get the word out there, especially this episode, so that we can get this book fully run. Go buy the book if you haven't already. Read it. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. And if you have any questions, any prayer requests, our email address is in the link tree as well. And if you so happen to be in South Jersey on a Sunday, around 10-ish in the morning, 10-ish in the morning.
Start at 10. Stop.
No, but we have latecomers.
But people still start at 10. I don't want latecomers. I want people here before 10.
We have latecomers. We don't always start at 10. We don't always start at 10. Sometimes it's 10:05.
Hey.
But anyway, if you happen to be in South Jersey and you would like to come worship with us, also in the link tree is our Streams of Life website. You can go on there, find out our address. Yep. Come on. If you can't make it out, you can go on there and listen to all the past sermons. Gary's a good preacher to begin with, but the last 2-3 months have been really, really digging in. So if you want to hear some things you're not used to hearing from a pulpit,
uncomfortable.
If you want to hear some things that you're not used to hearing from a pulpit, listen to it because he's right on. Might even gut check you a little bit. So I want to thank you, Jess, for joining us at the Corner Church and State. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank everybody out in America for joining us at the Corner Church and State. We will be back in 2 weeks. I'm not going to tell you what the subject's going to be because we haven't figured that out yet, and it could be a doozy. With everything that's been going on as of late, we got some things we can talk about, y'all. Yep. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Have a good night, and peace.
God bless, guys.
Can't help it, I just seem to see the world different. It ain't Republicans or labor rules, it's mental illness. The internet is only interested in left opinions. Cancel culture's got more power lately than the First Amendment. If you don't like it, leave. We will not defund police. We don't want no riots in our neighborhoods or in the streets. We respect freedom of speech. We protect what we believe. We don't want nobody dead, so please do not tread on me. In America, the freedom ain't free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, say what we believe, my America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom